In the 6th year of our secret marriage, Tim and I decided to get a secret divorce, in order not to let his little girlfriend bear the infamy of being a mistress who takes the place of the original wife. He said, "I don't want anyone to know that we were ever married." I nodded and said nothing, just added an extra 0 to the property settlement. Tim's face changed. "Is there nothing in your heart except money?" I chuckled softly. "After being husband and wife for so many years, you still know me best." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Tim was taken to the hospital due to drunkenness. The nurse asked, "Which one of you is the patient's family member?" Irene and I stood up at the same time. "It's me." "I am." The nurse frowned. "Who is it exactly?" Irene stepped forward quickly. "It's me. Just tell me if there's anything." The nurse explained the precautions for accompanying the patient at night. Irene listened carefully. I turned sideways to look at Tim. His breathing was heavy. His brows were deeply furrowed. The corners of his eyes were red, but his lips were pale and bloodless. I hadn't seen him like this for many years. One can practice their alcohol tolerance, but to a large extent, it depends on one's constitution. And Tim happened to be allergic to alcohol. Irene warmed his hands with tears in her eyes. The mistress has done this so earnestly, and as the original wife, I felt quite awkward. I hesitated whether to leave then. And she spoke. "It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, he wouldn't have drunk so much." My assistant had told me the inside story before I came. At the dinner party, someone accosted Irene and tried to force her to drink. Tim stopped them. That person said in a sarcastic tone, "A man who doesn't even dare to drink. You might as well be with me." Tim was long past the age of acting on impulse. But that night, he just lost his temper and started a drinking contest with that person. People who are familiar with Tim know that he doesn't have a good alcohol tolerance. But if he's willing to risk his life to drink with you, you might not even be able to outdrink him. When he was young, frivolous and acting recklessly, he was admitted to the hospital several times because of such behavior. The last time was the 2nd year of our marriage. He was spitting blood in the hospital, and I had a car accident on the highway. Since then, he changed. Irene asked, "Ms. Jean, did he protect you like this before?" I twitched the corner of my mouth. "I'll go back first while you look after him." "Ms. Jean." Irene's voice was urgent. She bit her lip lightly, as if she had made up her mind. "I told Tim that I want to get married, and he promised me 2 days ago, because I left an important item in the company." I turned the car around and rushed back. When I passed by Tim's office, the light inside was still on. Irene was sitting sideways on Tim's lap, hugging his neck and lying in his arms. She said in a coquettish voice, "Tim, I want to get married. I don't have the habit of eavesdropping." But this sentence made me stop in my tracks. Tim had a lazy smile on his face. His eyes were slightly narrowed, and he was combing through Irene's long hair one stroke at a time. "What's the matter, little girl? Are you eager to get married?" "Not at all." Irene snorted. "I just want to marry you." "Tim, will you marry me?" I stood outside the door, looking steadily at Tim through the half-open door. He was silent for a long time. The smile on his face faded. He looked at me quietly. Then he said softly, "Okay, Ms. Jean, Tim doesn't like you anymore. The person he likes now is me." Irene said it with full confidence. She looked at me nervously and proudly. I lowered my eyes. "Then congratulations." Tim returned to the company the next afternoon. As soon as he entered the office, he called me to go over. I pushed the door open. He was leaning on his head wearily, and his thumb was pressing hard on his temple. The after-effects of a hangover. His migraine had flared up. "Sort out the solar energy project and hand it over to Irene." His sudden words made me stunned for a few seconds. "What?" He didn't repeat it. He looked at me with a heavy gaze. "The solar energy project is very important. Irene is just starting out, so she needs opportunities, needs a successful start, and needs a brilliant resume." I was silent again. "Jean, I'm not discussing this with you." Tim knocked on the table heavily. He was already impatient. Taking a deep breath, I released my clenched fists. "Okay, but I have one condition." Tim raised his chin, indicating for me to speak. "Don't change the original team. Just change the person in charge to her. The dividends and bonuses that should be given to the project members can't be reduced by a single cent. All right, I promise you. After getting Tim's affirmative reply, I turned around and left. It took me an hour and a half to sort out all the things and explain the situation to everyone. The looks they gave me contained pity, sympathy, indignation, and anger. I knocked on the table. Don't let your personal emotions get involved. Don't talk to me about so-called loyalty. It's just work. Do the job and get paid. Holding the things, I entered Tim's office again. Irene was also there. She was smiling and stuffing cookies into Tim's mouth. Tim doesn't like all kinds of sweets. Although he frowned, he still accepted it helplessly. When she saw me, Irene quickly stood up straight. Well, if you two have something to talk about, I'll go out first. No need. Tim put the cookie box in Irene's hand. Go and eat over there. Then he looked at me with an unfriendly tone. Remember to knock next time you come in. Didn't I knock? It seemed I really didn't. It was a habit. There won't be a next time. What? I put all the documents on Tim's desk. Facing his suspicious gaze, I handed him the A4 paper at the bottom. It clearly said, resignation application. On it. Tim was stunned for 2 seconds. When he looked up again, his eyes were cold. What do you mean? Are you threatening me? I paused. You're thinking too much. The resignation letter was prepared a long time ago. Just waiting for the solar energy project to end. Now that I've handed it over, all the things in my hands are completed. It's just the right time to resign. Tim confronted me with a gloomy face. Irene seemed to be frightened. Ms. Jean, I won't take this project anymore. Don't be angry. I know I'm not qualified. I just want to learn from you. I won't participate. It's my fault. I apologize to you. Tim's face looked even uglier. He grabbed Irene. If you want to do it, just do it. You don't need to apologize to anyone. Resigning. Huh? Does the company stop running without you? Tim picked up a pen and quickly wrote his name at the end. He threw the resignation letter in front of me. Get out. I looked down at the paper that landed at my feet. There's one more thing. Tim kept a straight face and didn't say a word. Since you and Irene are going to get married, shouldn't you end our marital relationship first? Even Irene's sobbing stopped at this moment. She grabbed Tim's arm and looked at him nervously and expectantly. Tim's body stiffened a bit. He slowly turned his head. What did you say? I said let's get a divorce, by the way. Irene was sent out by Tim. She was a bit reluctant, but she didn't disobey him. She just gave me a hesitant look before leaving. Tim and I stood facing each other. He broke the silence first. How long have you been planning to leave the company? Half a year. So you were ready to get a divorce half a year ago. Right. I neither admitted nor denied it. Tim sneered. Jean, what right do you have to ask for a divorce? I looked at him. Is it meaningful to talk about this now? Yes. It's not meaningful. Tim took out a divorce agreement from the bottom drawer. You can put forward any conditions you want. Just one thing. I don't want anyone to gossip that Irene became the wife by being a mistress. So no one should know about our divorce. Or rather, I don't want anyone to know that we were ever married. I quickly scanned the contents of the agreement. I nodded. Sure. No problem. Then I picked up the pen and added an extra 0 to the property settlement. Tim looked at me sarcastically. Jean, is there nothing in your heart except money? I raised the corner of my mouth. After being husband and wife for so many years, you still know me best. On that day, I packed all my things and left the company. Some people gloated, while others were reluctant to part with me. Irene probably had the most complicated emotions. She seemed to want to say something but held back. But the relief on her face was clearly visible. When I got home, I wasn't used to not having to work suddenly. All day long, I was like a cat that had its tail cut off, not knowing what to do. In the afternoon, my assistant sent me a message. Mr. Tim today is like a fire-breathing dragon. Even the future boss's wife lost face in front of him. Ms. Jean, I believe that it won't be long before he realizes that he has cut his own aorta. If you have a good place to go, take us with you. We all really want to follow you. Hee hee. I curved the corner of my mouth. Don't think too much. As long as the solar energy project is secured, the company still has a promising future. At least your salaries and benefits won't be shortchanged. As for me, I have no plans to work in the short term. In the evening, Joy asked me out for a drink. Like a robot. She asks me every day. I replied, send me the location. The next second, She called me. I've lived long enough to see this. A workaholic is actually going to take a break. What's going on? Did Tim go bankrupt? Hearing her energetic voice, I also smiled. So, are you going to let me come or not? Come on. Hurry up. There's a private room, wine, and men, everything you need. I met Joy because of Tim, but unexpectedly, we became friends. She is one of the few people who know that Tim and I were married. So in the face of Tim's blatant infidelity, on the one hand, she was very dissatisfied with Tim, and on the other hand, she was committed to introducing men to me. In her words, if he starts it, don't blame you for following through. It's not certain whose situation is better. When I arrived at the place, Joy was already having a great time, holding a wine glass. She was screaming and dancing surrounded by a group of male models who were over 1.8 meters tall. Jean, come quickly. She pushed the most handsome one of them towards me. The guy was also very perceptive. He called me sister and poured me a glass of wine. I smiled faintly and drank it up in one gulp. All right, you guys can go out now. Hey, what do you mean, Jean? You're such a spoilsport. I rubbed my temple helplessly. It's too noisy. She winked at me. I thought you were shy. I raised my eyebrows. Do you think I'm that innocent? Certainly not. So I don't understand. Given what Tim has done, what are you still being faithful for? Joy was so straightforward that it was helpless. If he cheats, I cheat too. This is revenge. The word revenge is too strong. It's not that serious between us. Moreover, he had the affair after we broke up. Does he admit it? Joy sat up straight, her eyes shining. I think I've found a blind spot. I asked Joy what she meant, but she wouldn't say, acting all mysterious. All right, actually, I came here mainly to tell you that I'm going abroad in a while. What for? Traveling, doing business, going to school. Oh, I got the admission notice from the business school and I'm going to study for a master's degree. What about your job? You and Tim. I've already resigned. As for me and Tim, we've made an appointment to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. It was almost inevitable that Tim and I would end up like this. I always thought I didn't care much, but when Joy's eyes turned red, I couldn't help feeling a pang of sadness in my heart. Is he being unreasonable again? No. Is he deliberately targeting you? No. Why should you resign? If anyone should leave, it should be him. Joy and I drank cup after cup. She criticized Tim, feeling sorry for me and thinking I didn't deserve this. Probably only in matters of feelings. The input and the return are not proportional. It's strange that two people who once loved each other both feel that they have been treated unfairly in the end. Tim and I met in high school. He shouldn't have gone to our small city originally, but due to family changes, he had to transfer to a school near his grandfather. At that time, he was arrogant and rebellious. Not long after the start of the school term, he was among the first group of people to be criticized publicly. At least others were honest when admitting their mistakes. But even when standing in front of all the teachers and students in the school, he was still carefree. I didn't like such a person. I didn't want to have any contact with such a person either. But when he was wrongly accused, I still couldn't help standing up and testifying for him. From that day on, he started following me, from school to my home, and he wouldn't leave until I went upstairs. Without me, you would have been retaliated against long ago. Good student, you should stay out of such things in the future. He didn't care, whether it was getting into fights, being wrongly accused, or being misunderstood and punished. He didn't care. But when my father's fist was about to fall on me after hitting my mother, he rushed up and knocked my father down with a kick. My mother shrieked, supported my father, glared at me furiously, and called me a bitch. Tim froze. The next second, he grabbed my hand and we ran. He cooked me a bowl of noodles. He cooked them for too long, and they got all lumpy. He put too much soy sauce, making it a bit too salty. The greens were added too late, so they were just as they were. It was the worst noodles I had ever eaten, but I ate them all, not even leaving a drop of the soup. In those turbulent days of our youth, the two of us, walking alone in the world, warmed each other and supported each other as we moved forward. But everyone was against us. The school opposed puppy love. Tim's family looked down on me haughtily. I've seen many people trying to climb the social ladder, but this is the first time I've seen someone so young doing it. My mother's eyes turned red with anger, and she slapped me, saying that I was a disgrace. Tim was forcefully taken away, and I became an outcast at school. But he escaped, bringing all his lucky money and injuring his leg in the process. He said, "Let's elope." I hugged him and pressed my head against his. "Just 1 year. We'll get into the same university. Then no one will be able to stop us. Just 1 year." Tim arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau earlier than me. When I got out of the car, he was standing there, his eyes slightly narrowed, a cigarette between his fingers, and his thumb pressing on his temple. Noticing my gaze, he raised his eyes and put out the cigarette. "Let's go." The divorce process went very smoothly. The moment I got the divorce certificate, I couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. "What about your things in the house?" "Throw them away." We turned around and walked in opposite directions. There were still a lot of things left for me to deal with. I found some familiar organizers and asked them to clear out all the mail-related things in the house and pack up and seal the rest. Halfway through the process, a young girl took out a 36-inch photo frame from the study. "Sister, what should we do with this?" Inside the cracked glass frame that looked like a spider web was an enlarged red registration photo. Looking at the two people in the picture, leaning their heads against each other, smiling happily, I felt a bit dazed. This was the photo that Tim and I had hung above the bed, replacing the wedding photo. At that time, we didn't take wedding photos, let alone hold a wedding. We just quietly got a marriage certificate without telling anyone. The reason was that his family didn't approve of our relationship. If we insisted on being together, we could only have a secret marriage. I didn't care, but Tim was sad about it for a long time. At first, he said that once he got on his feet, he would make it up to me and make our marriage public. Later, he said it didn't matter. As long as we were happy, we didn't need to care if others knew about it. After that, he smashed the photo frame and said viciously, "I'm really glad I listened to my mom. Throw away the photo frame and put the photo in the shredder." After dealing with everything, I boarded a plane to go abroad a week later. I changed my SIM card and didn't tell anyone except Joy. The days when I first arrived abroad were chaotic. I had to find a place to live, get familiar with the roads, buy things, and go through the enrollment procedures. The unfamiliar environment and language made me feel extremely empty and lost. But soon, the busy studies dispelled all these feelings. When I had a video call with Joy at night, she said, "I met Tim today. Doesn't he know that you went abroad?" "Yeah, no wonder. What's up?" Joy said that someone at the dinner table asked about me and why they hadn't seen me for a long time. Irene couldn't wait and blurted out, "Jean has already left the company. From now on, I'll be in charge of her work. You can contact me if you have anything." Just like she didn't like Tim, Joy didn't like Irene either. She said coolly, "Of course your small company can't keep our Jean. She left because she has better prospects." Tim sneered sarcastically, "She's found a new job." "No. She went abroad." "You don't know." When Tim heard that you went abroad, he stood up abruptly and spilled a bowl of hot soup on Irene's leg. Irene let out a cry of pain, but Tim ignored her and just stared at me, his face turning pale. I just listened to what Joy said as a piece of gossip and didn't take it to heart. 3 days later, Joy contacted me irritably. "I want to kill Tim. He comes to the company every day to block me and asks where you've gone. I asked him why he's looking for you, but he won't answer. The smell of cigarettes on him is so strong that it can choke people to death." I was silent for a few seconds. "If you're annoyed, you can tell him. It doesn't matter. There's no need to hide it." I didn't really intend to hide it from him. I just thought there was no need to tell him. But Joy refused firmly. "No. Why should I tell him? I won't tell him. By the way, get ready to welcome me. It's your birthday in 10 days, and I'll come over to celebrate with you." Joy always attaches great importance to so-called birthdays and festivals. Maybe it's because of her romantic sentiment. She not only prepares nice gifts for me but also expects the same from me. As a result, someone like me who didn't care about birthdays since childhood has somehow come to value them as an adult. It was a bit cold that day. I went to the airport to pick up Joy. As soon as she saw me, she gave me a big hug. "You've lost weight. Your chin is so sharp. But you look energetic. Seems like you haven't been mistreating yourself." I smiled and took her back to my place. While she was taking a shower in the bathroom, I opened the door and walked out. Under the dim streetlights, Tim was standing there wrapped in a black coat. He turned up the collar, covering his chin. His gaze was very deep, and when he looked at me, It was as if he was wrapping me completely with his eyes. You followed Joy. She'll be angry if she finds out. Tim didn't say anything, just looking at me like that. After a long silence, he turned around and left. Tim was in a very bad state. He had a fever. The low-grade fever for no apparent reason had been torturing him for a week. He couldn't sleep well. Since the day Jean asked for a divorce, he hadn't had a good night's sleep. When he found out that Jean had gone abroad, his insomnia reached its peak. Anxiety and emptiness. He felt as if he had suddenly been placed on the edge of a cliff. There was no one to hold him back. He could fall at any moment. Sitting on a bench in a foreign country, in a place that was clearly strange to him, Tim suddenly let out a sigh of relief and felt a bit drowsy. Irene's phone call came in. She roared hysterically. You went to find her. We're already divorced. Didn't you say you wanted to start over? Weren't we in agreement? Tim's breathing was steady. We also agreed that you would act with me. Irene suddenly fell silent. Just as Tim was about to hang up the phone, she started crying. But you didn't reject me when I hugged you. We kissed. You said you wanted to give it a try with me. I can feel that you like me. Tim, come back. Okay, I'll accompany you to start over. Let's start over. Tim had already closed his eyes and leaned back, relaxing his whole body. But you're not her. Then what should I do? I love you. Tim hung up the phone and turned it off. He had found Jean. This made his heart feel at ease. Tim's appearance made me feel a bit dazed. His silence was as if he was just passing by and didn't have a specific purpose. But he had clearly followed Joy here. I didn't know what he really wanted to do. Joy stayed here for 3 days. We went shopping, had meals, and she even pretended to be a student in our classroom. There are quite a few high-quality guys in your class. Broad shoulders, narrow waists, long legs, and six-pack abs. If you're feeling lonely, you can relieve your boredom with one of them. I covered her mouth. Thanks, but no need. Humph. You're not even 30 yet. But you're living such a pure life. That afternoon, I took her to the airport. She hugged me reluctantly. When are you going back to the country? When the vacation comes. Are you sure? You won't not come back, will you? No. I still have to go back to find a job. Start a company. I'll ask my brother to invest in you. I smiled and patted her back. All right. Go in. Have a safe flight. When I came out of the airport, a black car stopped in front of me. The car window rolled down, and Tim said, Get in. I'll drive you home. I didn't notice during our brief encounter that day that Tim had lost a lot of weight. There were dark circles under his eyes, and he looked depressed and low. I opened the car door and got in. He drove me back to my place with ease. I said, Let's have a talk. I invited Tim into my house. I was making coffee in the kitchen while he sat on the sofa. When I came out with 2 cups of coffee, Tim had already fallen asleep. He was sleeping soundly and even snoring slightly. I looked at him expressionlessly for a long time, then turned around and made a phone call. By the time I finished the call, Tim had woken up. Sorry, I fell asleep. Taking a deep breath, I asked him, You didn't tell your mother about our divorce. Tim froze. Why did you come to find me? Tim, what do you want? Tim lowered his head and rubbed the coffee cup in his hand. I keep thinking about how things ended up like this. Which part went wrong? Everything was fine. But suddenly one day, everything was gone. Jean, let's start over. I can't let go. You've won. The words that Joy had said suddenly rang in my ears. Does he admit it? It seems that even now, he still doesn't admit the so-called breakdown of our relationship. He just regards it as a game between the two of us. This suddenly made me feel a bit sad. It had been too many years. The entanglement between Tim and me. Too many years. The joys, sorrows, anger, and happiness we had experienced flashed through my mind one by one. It's not that I don't care. I just don't think about it. We should be moving forward, not going back. How could we go back? Bump our heads against the south wall. We can't go back. My clenched fists made my whole body tremble. My mouth opened and closed. But I couldn't utter a single word. My eyes were burning hot. Finally, I turned around and rushed into the bedroom, slamming the door shut. I stayed up all night with my eyes wide open. When it was just getting light, I heard the sound of the door closing outside. Tim had left. I dozed off in a daze for a while and was awakened by the alarm clock. When I changed my clothes and came out, Tim was putting breakfast on the table. You're awake. Go wash up and come eat. I opened the door with a wooden expression and looked at him without saying a word. After facing off with me for a long time, he walked out. But when I came back from class, I found that he had moved into a place downstairs from me. Joy was furious. Tim went to find you. How did he know where you are? It can't be that I. No. It has nothing to do with you. What does he want? It doesn't matter. Jean, don't fall in love with him again. You've been through so much these years. 2 months after going abroad, I smoked a cigarette for the first time. At dinner time, Tim knocked on my door and said he had grilled a fish. He asked if I wanted to have dinner with him. I spoke again. Let's have a talk. Tim and I got into the same university. We were in love, started a business, and got married. Every step was very difficult. In the end, we broke up. It had been 12 years. What should we talk about and how should we talk? I couldn't even find a starting point. Tim spoke first. Irene and I were just pretending. I knew that. A girl who rode an electric bike rear-ended her and couldn't afford to pay the compensation all at once. So she had to pay it in installments. He deliberately let me see their chat records. Seeing that I was indifferent, he hired the girl into the company and asked me to train her personally. Because the girl was wronged by a customer, he questioned me. Is this how you take care of the people I care about? I said, everyone is the same. I went through the same thing to get where I am now. He sneered coldly. Compared to her, do you even deserve it? He never avoided suspicion, making everyone think that the girl was the future boss's wife. When he fell ill, the girl felt sorry for him. Ms. Jean, Tim has been through so much. Can you stop hurting him? I knew that Tim did it on purpose. He was sad and angry, so he wanted to take revenge on me 100 or 1,000 times over. But our problem has little to do with Irene. She's nice, simple, sunny, and she likes you. If you want to start a new relationship, she's a good choice. Tim looked at me with an unreadable expression. After a while, he laughed, absurdly and sarcastically. Jean, sometimes I even wonder if you have any feelings at all. At any time, when you make any choice, you're weighing the pros and cons. You're so calm that you're almost indifferent. Jean, do you remember that we once had a child? If it weren't for you, he would have been born by now. Finally, Tim said this. My heart suddenly contracted, and it stopped beating for a moment. I looked up at the smooth ceiling. I said softly, it's really strange. You didn't have any feelings for that child when he was in my belly for 3 months. But when I had an abortion, he became a beloved baby to everyone. Tim and I once had a child. The child came at a bad time, right in the middle of the critical period when our company was preparing to go public. And I had very strong pregnancy reactions. Tim felt sorry for me and asked me to take a vacation and rest well. I didn't agree and forced myself to deal with business despite my discomfort. Finally, I started bleeding. Tim got really angry and forced me to stay in the hospital to protect the fetus. I lay in the hospital for a week, and my computer and phone never stopped ringing. Tim slammed my computer down with a dark face. Do you think the world can't function without you? We had a huge argument. Tim unilaterally announced, I'll transfer the work in your hands to someone else. You're not going to work anymore. Stay at home and rest. I'm not discussing this with you. He was worried about me. He cared about the child. And my condition really wasn't good. I did compromise. But I didn't want to leave the workplace. I would inquire about the recent situation of the company, the progress of the projects, and propose to sit in on some important meetings. But Tim refused me one by one. You just stay at home and take care of the baby. After the baby is born, you'll have to take care of it. So you won't have that much time. I was stunned. I've only taken a half-month leave. Tim pursed his lips. Jean, stop working. Just stay at home. Read books, drink tea, and take care of the flowers and plants. Do you know? I really envy those people whose homes always have a light left on for them. It's not like you and me. Both of us are busier than each other. Look at our house. Does it have any warmth of a home? Now the company is on the right track. In the future, I'll take care of things outside, and you'll take care of the family. Moreover, with a child, someone has to accompany him. You surely don't want him to be like us, getting no warmth from the family at all. It was ridiculous. Tim and I had been together for so many years. We had walked hand in hand, being lovers, friends, partners, and competitors. But in the end, He told me that what he wanted was a virtuous wife who would support her husband and raise their children. We had the most intense argument ever, and then we had a Cold War. I directly ended my vacation and went back to the company. Tim flew into a rage. You only care about yourself and don't care about anything else. Go home. I'll talk to the HR department. I said coldly. What will you say? Say that I'm fired. Or that you're going to dismiss me. Who gave you the right to handle my resignation? Who knows that we're married? Tim had a dark face. Is it just because of this? Fine. When the baby is born, I'll make our marriage public at the full moon banquet. Is that okay? These words stopped all my words. I didn't understand when making our marriage public had become a condition to control me. Of course, all these were not enough for me to have an abortion. I held on. The torment in my heart, the physical discomfort, and the confrontation with Tim, until I accidentally heard the conversation between him and his mother. Getting pregnant with this child was an accident. We had been preparing for pregnancy, but I still got pregnant. It was as if it was destined. But Tim said that he did it on purpose. He deliberately made me pregnant at this juncture. Otherwise, it would be even more difficult to make me leave after the company went public. His mother agreed. That's why I asked you to sign a prenuptial agreement with her. But you refused. After the baby is born, ask her to sign this agreement. In the future, everything you have will be the child's. Even if you get a divorce, she won't get a penny. Tim was unhappy. I told you. Don't scheme against her. Is this scheming? I'm doing it for your own good. Once a woman's heart is set on other things, she won't care about the family. Look at your life. Does it look like you have a family? You don't even have a hot meal. And no one helps you tidy up your clothes. Jean is not an obedient woman. If you don't make her completely dependent on you, how can you control her? Tim was silent. He held that agreement for a long time and finally put it in his bag. I knew that he had taken his mother's words to heart. This made me shudder. How ironic. A child who was still an embryo had become my weakness. He was a tool for others to scheme against me and tie me down. I had to give up myself for him. Could I do it? I couldn't. I was calm, indifferent, and selfish. So after just thinking about it for one night, I made an appointment for an abortion. Tim was shaking. I just want a normal family life. Am I wrong? Husband, wife, and child. A family has its own division of labor. We always have to make sacrifices. Why can't it be you? I looked at Tim. Then why does it have to be me? You work. You start a business. Is it just for your wife, children, and family? That's your dream, your career, your achievement. What about my dream, my career, my achievement? Tim, if you want to find a virtuous wife and good mother, go find one. Don't try to turn me into that kind of person. Tim's face looked ugly, and he looked at me with a hint of bewilderment. It was just like the boy who had injured his leg and hugged me when he was 17. Tim went back to the country. His cooperation with Solar Energy was imminent. I had to go to school and also took on a consulting job for a company. I was so busy that I could hardly find time to rest. After having this conversation with Tim, I thought we wouldn't meet again, but a few days later, he appeared downstairs again. After a silent look at each other, I wanted to ignore him and leave, but he suddenly called out to me. I brought some of your favorite food. Let's have dinner together tonight. Tim, you're just wasting your time. You should be very busy at this stage. Don't do such meaningless things. I'm not busy for now. I have time. And this is not a meaningless thing. I looked at him suspiciously. Aren't you supposed to be pushing forward the project with Solar Energy at this stage? We didn't sign the contract. He said these two words casually, but my ears rang for a few seconds. What did you say? There was a problem with the project with Solar Energy, and we didn't sign it. Tim, do you know what you're talking about? It's just a business deal. You don't have to react like this. Tim, you're too arrogant. You don't know what you've lost. After having an unpleasant argument with Tim, I went to school. On the way, I called Joy and asked her to ask her brother to try his best to take over the opportunity of Solar Energy. At the same time, I asked her, do you know what caused it? Joy paused. I heard some news. It said that there was a conflict during the signing, and Tim hit someone. By the way, is the cooperation with Solar Energy very profitable? I hummed in agreement. It's like an endowment insurance for your brother's company. Really? Although Joy was skeptical, she still told her brother. Half an hour later, I received a transfer of 7 digits in my bank card. My brother said thank you. In the evening, when I got home, I heard crying before I even went upstairs. It was Irene. Why do you say you don't like me? You like me. I can feel it. Otherwise, you wouldn't give up the solar energy project for me. Tim, wake up. There's no possibility between you and Jean anymore. Can you say that during the time we were together? Even if it was just acting. You didn't develop real feelings. Standing downstairs, I hesitated. I didn't want to get involved in their affairs. But I was so tired. I just wanted to go back to bed and sleep. In the end, I still raised my feet and walked up. After turning a corner, I saw Irene hugging Tim tightly and crying uncontrollably. Tim's expression was a bit complicated. His hands hanging by his sides clenched and then relaxed. And then clenched again, until he noticed me. In an instant, he pushed Irene away. Irene hit the wall and let out a muffled groan. I reached out to support her, but she angrily shook me off. Jean, I'm begging you. Can you stay away from Tim? Just let him go. Shut up. You don't love him anymore. Otherwise, you wouldn't have given up your child. He can't see it clearly, but I can see it very clearly. Irene, I told you to shut up. No. Irene widened her eyes. She looked aggrieved when she looked at Tim and hateful when she looked at me. Can't you stay away from our lives? If you hadn't deliberately run abroad and caused all this, we would have started over already. I looked at Irene quietly. I didn't want to talk to someone who was being unreasonable. They always only talked about emotions and not about reason. So I turned to Tim. Control her. People will call the police if she disturbs the neighbors like this. Irene still wanted to rush towards me, but Tim frowned and grabbed her. Can you stop making a scene? I didn't know what happened between them later. I saw Tim again 2 days later. Fresh daisies. I just bought them. He had a flattering smile on his face, and I walked past him expressionlessly. He grabbed me. Things aren't as you heard. There's nothing between me and Irene. I've already asked her to go back to the country. She won't bother you anymore. I took a deep breath. Then can you also stop bothering me? Tim trembled. Do you really have to be so heartless? I admit that I was wrong. But Jean, you're not completely right either. Wasn't there a better choice back then? Did you really have to have an abortion? Otherwise, I said these 3 words very softly, but Tim still heard them. My wrist slipped out of his palm. You always say that I'm cold-hearted and only weigh the pros and cons when doing things. That's because my cost of making mistakes is much higher than yours. You could skip school, take all your lucky money, and want to elope with me. Missing the college entrance examination wasn't important to you. You could repeat a grade, go abroad, or start over at any time. But that was my only chance to change my life. I could have kept that child. We could have communicated and tried. The outcome might not necessarily be the worst, but I didn't have the courage to take the risk. I didn't know how much a life would tie me down. I was born into an incomplete family. I also didn't know what I could bring to him. One path was full of uncertainties, and the other path was something I was sure of. I would only choose the latter. Before I was 20 years old, I lived for 2 words: escape. I was born into a typical and not so good family. My mother said that my father used to be very good, loving her, respecting her, and taking care of her. Everything changed since I was born. The child my mother gave birth to at the cost of her health was a daughter who couldn't carry on the family line. My father took one look and then turned around and left, ignoring my mother in the hospital bed and me who was crying for milk. Even my name was given by a teacher in the same ward. My father started drinking, gambling, and beating people. When I was a child, my mother always cried and said that I was a burden, that it was all because of me, and that it was my fault. When I grew up a bit, I started to protect my mother. She relied on me and resented me at the same time, and she also told me not to hate my father. Later, she also started hitting me. When I first advised her to get a divorce, she went crazy and said that I had already harmed her and now I wanted to ruin her. At that moment, I understood that I had to escape. Now I've almost cut off contact with them, and I just send them alimony every month. I don't care whether they slander me or curse me. Since then, I've only lived for 2 other words: myself. I'm glad that I've taken good care of myself, so I don't allow any deviation along the way. I don't want to treat myself badly. Tim's face was full of pain. If you had talked to me properly, if we had had a good talk, but there are no ifs in the world. Tim, we've just drifted apart. You have to admit it. And I never look back. I met Tim again the day after I returned to the country. Joy happily asked me out for dinner. Tim was in another private room. When I went to the restroom, I happened to run into him coming out of the bathroom. He looked a bit embarrassed, obviously having just vomited. When he saw me, he instinctively straightened up. You're back in the country. Yeah. Are you leaving again? After the spring festival. Happy New Year in advance. Tim was stunned. Joy said that Tim's life wasn't going well now. The company's listing failed, and he couldn't restore his father's business. His mother was very disappointed in him and slapped him in public. Did you expect this? I nodded. Solar energy was the key. If it were the old Tim, he wouldn't have missed it. Irene stepped forward quickly. It's me. Just tell me if there's anything. He had been arrogant and overbearing. Now, although it's not like starting from scratch, it's still very difficult for him. Irene was still by Tim's side, never leaving him. She could drink now, and she no longer got teary-eyed because of a single word from others. This experience of going through hardships together might really lead to a happy ending. Joy asked, will you be unwilling? Will you wish for their careers to fail and for them to become a bitter couple? I shook my head. Life is a process of constantly making choices. Once you make a choice, you accept it and keep moving forward without looking back. Family affection, friendship, love, career, studies, hobbies. Each of them is just a small part of life. In this world, in the end, the only one who accompanies you is yourself. Take good care of yourself. Raise yourself well. In this life, don't let yourself down. The end of the full text.